Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? All right. My name is Mark Saphir. I am the Vice President on the Board of Trustees and this year's Pledge Chair. So a little plug for pledging. Thank you if you've pledged, and if you haven't, we look forward to you pledging till it feels great for everybody. So welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Chicago, in person and at home. Hi, Mom and Dad. I'm Mark Saphir, and again, your Vice President on the Board of Trustees and Pledge Chair. And I'm honored to lead you this morning, along with Reverend David Messner, the Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Liz McCreelis, and our wonderful Director of Music, Adam Odell. Hi, Adam. The First Unitarian Church has been home for progressive religion in Chicago and beyond since 1836. The church sits on the western shore of Lake Michigan, south of the Chicago River. We honor the indigenous people for whom these are unceded ancestral homelands, as well as the diverse and vibrant indigenous American communities who make their home here today. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youths, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, and the mission to grow our souls and heal the world. Whether you stepped into this church for the first time or for the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. No matter your race, or who you love, or how much money you have or don't have, you are welcome here. Please join me in the reading of our covenant. Oh, no, okay.
So, can we do some announcements?
We could do some announcements.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I have a few announcements today, a few things I want to pitch that are important. First is tomorrow is our we do a monthly day at La Tiendita over at the Coppin AME Community Center. And so upstairs is the food pantry, downstairs is the department store. It serves neighbors newly arrived and long in place. We have about 3 or 4 of us. I could use 2 or 3 more. So if you're willing to do a 4 to 6 tomorrow, please let me know, or you can let Tim know in the back, because he's just like a nerve center of receiving information. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You meet people and you advise them on how to cook lentils or what shoes are in stock. So please sign up for that. On Wednesday is the Good Life Seminar. That's mine. That's our kind of philosophical reflection and exploration circle. I had a special request. We take special requests for most things. We don't accept them all. But this one I got a special request and said, can we do a Good Life Seminar on midlife crisis? And I said, heck yeah. That's uncanny. I'm on the verge of having my 3rd midlife crisis right now. And so I really am excited about this. We actually have a philosopher who's done some writing on this, and I'll share that. But you can plan to come with A, no preparatory reading, because we'll kind of work the text together, and B, you need not be in midlife or in crisis, nor in crisis, to come to the conversation, because part of the thing that's engaging to me is this idea, is it possible, I say something, I think I'm having a midlife crisis. And the first thing they ask is, you think you're in midlife? How long are you planning to live? Which is insulting, because they don't ask about the crisis. So my joke is, you can be of any age to talk about those moments of disruption, dislocation, and opportunity to make shifts between chapters. I feel really excited about that. It's going to be Wednesday at 6. And I'll send out an invite, but you can also just come, Chris Moore Parlor. Thursday, we are a host site for a climate forum beginning at 11 a.m. It's simulcast to churches all around the country, and we're the Chicago site. And I think we're going to be set up probably in Chris Moore beginning at 11 a.m. And for the little group, presuming it's a relatively reasonable sized group, we'll send out for a nice lunch at noon. And we'll watch that together, and the keynote address, the opening prayer and keynote address will begin at 11 our time. So I welcome you to that. And then on Friday, Liz has expanded a religious education event thinking about disability justice and disability rights to an all-church opportunity to watch the film Crip Camp. And if you haven't seen this documentary, it's really powerful. It's awesome, and it has a front nine and a back nine. The front nine is about the experience, the very liberating experience at this camp for folks with disabilities, and how that was a transformative space for them. I think it's a great teacher about the kinds of spaces we try and create. And the backside was about the fight for political recognition of disability rights, which is pretty cool as well. So please come on Friday night. That's what I have for you. Is anyone here new, visiting today, and brave? Not brave? Well, it's okay. I get to see. No one else has to know. It'll be our secret. Does anyone else want to say their name? And if you've been coming here, like this is my 35th time, but I'm just courageous enough to say hello today, just tell us who you are and where you're from. Yeah? Heck yeah.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm visiting from New York.
From where? New York. I've been to New York. That's awesome. Welcome. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, we're Alicia, Ken, and AJ. This is AJ. And we're visiting from Milwaukee.
Welcome. New York and Milwaukee in the house. We're a global church. So, thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Saphir for our chalice lighting.
So as we light our chalice, we'll also read our covenant. Please join me in reading our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Today's opening song is going to be a call and response. I will start, and you can follow. What we need is here. 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 Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Worship will now resume.
I call us to worship today with a question. Who was the best teacher you ever had? Who was the best teacher you ever had? Now for me, maybe Mrs. Pershey, 5th grade. Some of you might know her. She treated me well. She took care of me. She took extra time, planted some seeds. Mrs. Hake, 2nd grade. That's it. John, who's the best teacher you've ever had?
The best teacher I ever had, well, given the commitment to social justice of this congregation,
Just the name. Just the name, sir.
I'm remembering the name, and his name's Demian Wheeler.
Bless him. What grade? What school?
United Theological Seminary, the Twin Cities.
See, nice. That's so interesting, because when I've been asked that question, and I gave you elementary school, because when you say teacher, I picture teacher in my head, and I picture myself small, And then you crack through, and then there are teachers, though, as you get older. That was probably not when you were 7 at the United Theological Seminary. And then I start thinking about the teachers across the street who gave me gifts. But then I start thinking, are those the only kinds of teachers that we have? What other kinds of teachers are there? Mother teachers. Mother teacher. I tell you, yeah. Maybe anyone got a father who was a teacher that was good to them? Let me do a father interview here for a second. I got a father on the street right here.
Great teacher, Mrs. Margarita Murphy. She was my high school teacher who kept me on the straight and narrow.
Amen. And look what it produced today. Grandchildren in the pew behind you. I'm thinking about other teachers. Let me narrow this down. Well, and at least one beautiful voice in the stands above us. So let me narrow this down, though, because there are all these other kind of teachers. Who have been your best teachers this morning before you got to church? Well, wait a sec. I didn't talk to that many people this morning. I guess across the breakfast table, maybe you have a spouse here today who was a good teacher. Maybe you have a child who said something smart. Who else could have been a teacher? And I was thinking about that strange question myself, and I was thinking about the music I put on this morning, and I'm having fun. I'm making playlists for a SAR and say, this is what I want to hear at church. And so we were listening to Avi Kaplan this morning, and his wonderful deep voice. Can that music be a teacher? I was reading the New York Times this morning and thinking, is the New York Times still the paper of record? Is it a teacher of record for me? I've been reading it for 50 straight years. It seems like it must have taught me something. And then I got here, and the 10 congregants who talked to me, are you the best teachers I've ever had? Maybe you are. And so what I'm getting at, and in the order of service, it says that it's a litany of teachers. I mean to have this be a meditation on revelation. Revelation, let me use a big R word, which is, how do you learn in this world what is true? How does the world disclose to you the truth? Maybe some of us walked to church and a tree was a great teacher to us this morning. Is that too abstract? Are we the place that learns from the nature? Does the wind teach us a lesson? The people around us, the books on the chair, the musician, the conductor. How many teachers do we have? How many sources of revelation do we have? Part of the heresy of this place and the way we want to start this morning is that the sources of revelation of the true and the real are all around us, seeking to whisper in our ears something new and surprising and educational. And if we're not on the lookout for the great teachers outside of our classrooms and outside of our pulpits, we're missing 90% of life. And on this day, I want to lift up the greatest teacher of all, I think, is life experience. And you all walked in with those teachers, carrying them with you your best teacher to this place, and then sharing it with the people around you. May we continue to do so. Now come, let us worship together. Rise in body and spirit for number, what's it going to be? 6. Just shout out the number. 6. Thank you.
Our centering hymn will be number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just As Long As I Have Breath. Please rise in body or spirit.
Still with hope I meet each day.
Now, we're all staying together today, and I am so delighted that my colleague, Liz Kreslin, is going to be doing our homily today. And so I have been given a story that I would like to share with you. I am going to hew to the text a little more than I usually do, because this is Tolstoy, and you don't want to mess too much with Tolstoy. So here it goes. This is the 3 questions. Thank you. Am I? It once occurred to a certain king that if he always knew the right time to begin everything, if he knew who the right people to listen to were and whom to avoid, and above all, if he knew what the most important thing to do was, he would never fail in anything he was to undertake. And having thought this thought, he put out a call in the kingdom for teachers, for anyone who would teach him the right time for every action, the right people, and the most important things to do. Learned folks came forward. They all had different suggestions. The technocrats, they came forward first. They said, well, you need a Gantt chart. You need planning tools. You can use Trello. It's an app. Back in Tolstoy's day, that was an app. Some of you know it still today. They say you can plan it out. You need what you're going to do when, and you make plans, and there are steps. You break down your task, and so forth. Next person came and said, don't listen to that last fool. What you need to do is remain ever vigilant and awake, and see what is most important in the moment, what grabs your heart and your attention, and go toward that which is needful instantly. The king dismissed that one, and the next one came and said, don't listen to them. What you really need is to convene a blue ribbon panel. You need a cabinet of counselors. You need well-paid consultants surrounding you, and then each day they will advise you and develop consensus around what and who is most important for you to pursue, and you surely cannot fail with at least a dozen consultants surrounding you. He was led out of the room. Finally, one came in and said, forget all of that. I'll tell you what you need, and it's only one thing. You need a magician who can see the future, and they will tell you what is right. That man scurried out of the room. There were equally many answers implied there to that second question about who the important people are. Are the important people the counselors, the lawyers, the consultants, the priests, the warriors? Who do you need advice from? The tech moguls? Should you be calling the tech moguls in? The columnists? So many possibilities. All the answers being different, the king felt overwhelmed, and to tell you the truth, he didn't really feel convinced by any of them, so he went on a journey of his own. He said, bring the carriage around, and he went to consult a hermit who was widely regarded as knowing things. The hermit lived deep in the wood, but one of the hermit's rules, and hermits have rules, was he received none but the common folk. So the king parked the carriage around the corner and put on a shmata, looked as a simple person, and then went to the hermit's cell. When he approached the hermit, actually, though, the hermit was in the yard and he was digging a hole. The king asked him the questions about what's important, who's important, how do I determine what to do? And he listened to the king, sort of, but after having paused, he spat on his hands and he simply kept digging, remaining silent. King looked at him and said, you know, you look tired. Let me take the shovel and work a while for you. Ah, thank you for offering, said the hermit, handed over the shovel and sat down on the ground to watch. When he had dug 2 flower beds, he stopped and he asked the hermit again his 3 questions. And he said to the wise man, he said, I have come a long way, and I have asked the questions, but you've not answered. And the hermit says, well, wait one sec. I've heard your questions. And then someone came running. And the king turned around and saw a bearded man coming out of the wood, and the man held his hands pressed against his stomach. At that moment, he was bleeding from his stomach, and when he reached the king, fainting on the ground, moaning feebly, the king and the hermit unfastened his clothing and started to work to staunch the blood flow. They worked to bandage him up. And after some time, maybe an hour, the man revived and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. Meanwhile, this is a long story. The sun has set, both in the story and potentially here. But lying on the bed, the man closed his eyes and was quiet. The king was so tired, he crouched down on the threshold, and he too fell asleep. So tired he was that he slept well and he slept deep. When he awoke in the morning, it was some time before he could even remember where he was, even remember who he was. And he saw that strange bearded man whom they had bandaged up, staring at him with shining eyes. First thing the man said to him, unexpectedly, "Forgive me, forgive me." "I don't know you," said the king, "and you have nothing to forgive me for." He said, "Maybe." "You don't know me," he said, "but yes, I know you, your majesty. And I am an enemy of yours, who swore to revenge himself on you because you executed my brother, you seized his property, and I have been following you. And I saw this moment to ambush you. And yet now you have saved my life. Forgive me. Forgive me for the animosity that was in my heart and the violence that was in my body." The king was so glad to have made peace with his enemy so easily and to have gained him in this way for a friend. He not only forgave him, but said he would send his own servants to restore his property. And having taken care of the wounded man, he went out on the porch. And before going away, he wished once more to beg an answer to the questions. The hermit was outside at this point, sowing seeds in the garden that had been prepared. And he said to him, "Don't you know? Your questions have already been answered. Do you not see? If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday when I was digging these holes, and if you had not dug those beds, that man would have attacked you out there, and you would have repented of not having stayed with me. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds. And in that moment, I was the most important man. And to do me good was your most important business. And afterwards, when that man ran to us injured, it was when you were attending to him. That was the most important work. And he was the most important man, for he would have died. And he would have not made peace with you. So what you did for him in that moment was your most important business. So remember then this. There is only one time that is important. That is now. It is the most important time because it's the only time when we have any power at all. Our power exists in this moment. And the most necessary person is with the one with whom you are. For no one knows whether they will ever have dealings with anyone else. No one knows whether they're ever going to have another hour, another moment, another inspiration to do good in the world. So embrace this moment, embrace the call you hear right now, and find the most important person next to you in this place. That's our story.
Person at your side.
Why don't you? I feel like it's a lot of me talking over you.
Yeah, no worries.
This is last week. This is all last week.
Let me. There you go. I will go with you. We'll do that for pledge.
What's it?
We'll do that for pledge. I'll get the order service.
What?
When they do the pledging, I'll come up here and bring you the service. I'll just make sure.
I didn't know. What pledge?
So you know when we do the pledge for.
Oh, it's not yet. Okay, never mind. I just got confused. The offering.
The offer. Yes. I got pledge in my mind.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was like, oh, what? Yes, bring us back. Mark's going to do this next thing.
Cool.
Mark, come up here. You're next.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
You got this?
Yes.
Okay, say something about
We're going to do joys and sorrows. Oh, we're going to do our offertory right now. So please come on up and.
I left you stranded. I'm sorry. Here, let me take a turn. That was my misdirection. I'm all out of whack because I'm not doing my usual parts. Each week we take up an offering. We share of the abundance we ourselves have to make the world better. We are sharing this month with the Chicago Abortion Fund. And at this moment, this is direct access to health care for women in places more vulnerable than Chicago, more vulnerable than Illinois, because it funds the opportunity to come here and access health care. We're coming up on a new month. If you, I was going to say, have in mind nominating the organizations, particularly those that are locally powerful, that are important acts of resistance through investment in this time of assault on basic civil liberties. So I want to plant that seed with you and share your passions with the team, you can do it through me, about who we should be sharing the plate with. Today's offering will now be gratefully received, and then Mr. Saphir will do joys and sorrows. So if you have joy or sorrow, you put them on a card and you toss it in the basket too. Thank you so much.
Isn't that wonderful? Let's one more round of applause for our wonderful music director, Adam Odell. That is a joy. That definitely is a joy. So for joys and sorrows, we have a couple joys today I'd like to announce. So this is as company improved parental leave by 50% and is paying me back, or paying me back pay. That's from Elizabeth. So thank you. Yeah. That's huge. And just one more joy from me. You know, with so much going on in the world, it's disorientating. But kind of echoing what Reverend Dave says, being present here, now. My joy is being here with all of you and celebrating our faith together.
Check, check.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining.
Good morning. I'm Detective Kreslin, Private Eye. Welcome to my office. You didn't know that you walked into a private investigator's office this morning, but you did. And I am going to enlist your help in an investigation today. You see, It was a dark and stormy night. Now that's how investigations begin, right? It was a dark and stormy night, and little Elizabeth McCreeless was 9 years old. And she founded a club. We know this, Exhibit A, because the club had a flag. Let's get this flag up here on our bulletin board right here, because that is a clue. I'm going to put that one right in the middle. Now the club was called Club of Goodness and Detective Work, or COGAD. Catchy acronym if I ever heard one. We know it was called that because the name was on the flag. It also had a magnifying glass on there, which fellow detectives will know we use those. Now, we also know about this club that it did not attract a huge number of followers. You may be surprised, but that is a somewhat niche, specific combination of two topics. But that was okay, because we marched to the beat of our own drummer here. That was what the founder was interested in, was in being good to other people and in mystery stories. Let's get those up on our bulletin board. Being good to other people. Right, some Post-its here. Mystery stories. So let me lay out the case for you here. Are those two things just the random byproducts of a 9-year-old's imagination? Or could there be a connection? This case has been really getting me down. You see, I tried to start by defining my terms. What is goodness? Oof. Well, that sounds like the kind of question that we could be talking about for a long time. We could be talking about that one every second Wednesday here at First Unitarian, maybe for the rest of our lives, and maybe we might really do that. So I moved on because I figured I'll be waiting on the philosophers a long time on that one. I moved on to what is detective work? Now, I'll tell you what I found. Detective work for Elizabeth in the 1990s was 3 investigators' books, Exhibit B. Let's put that on here. You see, the Hardy Boys were way too jock, way too bro-y. Nancy Drew, way too girly. The 3 investigators were perfect for her because they included at least one huge nerd in the group, so that was perfect. We know all that because of books and journals found in the vicinity of the flag. And now the 3 investigators had a motto: we investigate anything. And so the kind of thing that they would do is be on the lookout for mysterious happenings, like a creepy scream from the mansion next door, or sometimes somebody would come to them with a problem, like a professor whose ancient Egyptian mummy was whispering for some reason and it might be cursed. And what they would do when somebody came to them with such a problem, or they heard such a mysterious happening, is that they would go in person to where it was going on. And they would check it out. They would use their senses, their bodies, their eyes, ears, fingers to hear, see, touch, find out what they could learn about the mystery. They would do that even if it was dangerous, even though they were kids, even if they had to disguise themselves, hide in bushes, hide inside a sarcophagus, a mummy case. Does that sound like a good definition of detective work? Yeah, I saw some nods. I kind of think so. It sounds definitely the senses part, the going in person part. I think what little Elizabeth found when she was invited to ride along with a local police detective was that for a lot of detectives, it's a lot more like patrols, booking guys into the station, taking fingerprints, things like that. So she realized that she was way more interested in the mystery part than the actual detective work part, and she ended up someplace where it's kind of the whole deal to look at those mysteries that may never be solved, will probably never be solved. Now there are those kind of mysteries that will never be solved in every single area of study, in every field of human work represented by the icons on this row above you in the sanctuary. In every single science, in medicine, in technology, in literature, art, in music, as I think Dr. Adam can probably attest from his recent doctoral work. In every area of human work, there are unsolved mysteries that even the best experts are still puzzling over. How do we get more information about things like that? That's a case to really get you down. Now let's take, for example, history, as perhaps soon someone like John Rice may teach us more about. Perhaps. In history, there are so many unsolved mysteries of every kind. There are huge swaths of time and space in the past that even the best experts, the tenured faculty, are still trying to figure out questions that seem simple, that certainly were simple to the people living at that time. Who lived here? Where did they come from? How many? Who built this? Who wrote this document? What was it about? So there are those kind of unsolved questions. But then there are also other questions. There's questions about why things happened. What does it mean? Why might it be important for us? So which questions should the historian focus on? Should they focus on the details, or should they focus on the big picture? Now that brings us back to goodness. You know, we heard a story this morning. Reverend Dave didn't know that he might be a witness in an investigation this morning. We heard a story this morning that gave us 3 answers. The important time is now. The important person is who you're with. And the right thing is to be good to them. Those are great answers. And they're hard to focus on because it's always true that there's a larger story. There are many larger stories going on around us, larger than what's immediately in front of us in the room, larger even than maybe anything we will ever directly observe ourselves as an individual. And I think that's why the king was confused in the story at first. When the world is so big with so many different things happening, it's really hard to know, when should I do something? Who is important? What am I supposed to do? And so, I was really stuck, and I had to go back to my training as a detective, because I'll tell you, as a detective, I learned 2 things. I learned that we need our brain, and we need at least 2 tools. We detectives, we need a magnifying glass, and we need a bulletin board. We need our magnifying glass to look up close, real close at teeny details like a thread or a fingerprint. Maybe we need a microscope sometimes, they're so small. But then we also need to take a step back, and we need to look at the whole picture. We need to put our clues up on the board, look at how they come together, and try to crack the case. If we can do both of those things, if we can use our bulletin board and our magnifying glass, then we can orient ourselves. And we need that. We need to be oriented to what's around us, what's surrounding us. Us. Hyde Park, South Side, Chicago, Illinois, America, the world. Things that happened last week, last month, last year, 50, 100, 150 years ago, things that have not happened yet. We need to be oriented to all that, and especially we need to be oriented to where we are right now, right here, literally. Sanctuary of First Unitarian Church, Sunday morning, March 23rd, 2025, here together. If we can use our bulletin board for the big picture and our magnifying glass to focus on where we are right here, what we see right here, then we can be oriented and we get to choose what we do. And if we can do that, then maybe we can get some clarity on how to be good. to the person at our side? Well, you can let me know if I cracked the case. And now it'll be time for me to go and for you to pick up your hymnals.
Our closing hymn will be in the teal hymnal, number 1014, Answering the Call of Love. Please note that the composer has changed the words, so anytime you see standing on the side of love, we will be singing Answering the Call of Love instead. Please rise in body or spirit for the singing. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love above. And so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep left hand out, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, and love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call
If you are so moved, I invite you to remain standing and take a hand next to you, bump a shoulder. And as you go from this place, I hope you carry upon you a blessing, maybe a few of them. I hope you're blessed by the power to inhabit your life, to live it fully, to feel its spaciousness, to feel and know it's happening right now. I hope you're blessed not to live your future life with worry, not to live your past life with regret, but to live the life that's being offered you right now. I wish you the blessing to notice the small things with the magnifying glasses in your kit, because in the small things, a life is made. I wish you the blessing of seeing the larger picture, because together, all of these moments paint a beautiful image that sustains us all. Go in peace, my friends. Be well.